what's happening in the brain of a radical person and how we can change this radical behavior.
Yeah, so we did a couple experiments with radicalized people, jihadist supporters. In one study, we had people who were very much at the early stage of radicalization. So they were not full-fledged extremists just yet, but they were sort of on the fence. They believed in a lot of the ideology. They held some of the values even to be sacred. And what we did with that population is that for half of them, we made them feel socially excluded by the majority out group through playing a little video game, toss ball, where they're tossing a ball, and the other players basically stop tossing them the ball, and they feel very excluded by it. And the other half, the players, they were included in the game. We put them in the scanner, and what's interesting is that for both people, we see a certain part of the brain activate called the left inferior frontal gyrus, which activates when people are thinking about their sacred values. This is the third replication. There was 2 other studies that were done in the United States, so we have good confidence that this part of the brain is a marker for processing of sacred values. Now, sacred values are values that you consider ones that you would not negotiate with in an instrumental way. I can't, like if someone, for example, a Palestinian believes that it's a sacred value for a right of return or for an independent Palestinian state, you couldn't offer them things like, oh, what if we build you really nice homes in Jordan or Lebanon? And what if we'll give you a Ferrari even, and we'll send your kids to the best schools if you just let go of this right of return, if you just let go of an independent Palestinian statehood. And there have been offers made like this, not Ferraris, but there's been third countries that have offered billions upon billions of dollars to the Palestinian people, essentially to say, let go of these desires. And these people say, no, I would rather continue to live in poverty and to live under difficult circumstances, and for my kids to live under difficult circumstances and my grandkids, than accept this offer, because this is sacred to me. This is so important to me, this value. And a value could be sacred and not be religious. It can be sacred. It can be you can believe in freedom of speech, could be a sacred value for you as well. And so, we know what these people's sacred values are, whose brains we scan. And what we found was that with the people who had been socially excluded, the part of the brain that previously had only activated for sacred values now started to activate for non-sacred values as well. And when they got out of the scanner, they started to report more of their non-sacred values as being sacred, and they increased their explicit willingness to fight and die for those values. So they said, I'm willing to use more violence now for these values. So basically what we're witnessing here, behaviorally and neurally, is that social exclusion is taking some of their values that were previously in the non-sacred category and moving them into the sacred category. Now that's a worrying development, because the more values that are in the sacred category, the more difficult it is to negotiate or persuade this person, and the closer that person is moving towards the edge of violence, right? Because if you have mostly non-sacred values, this is a person that can be persuaded. This is a person that can be negotiated. You have more tools in your toolbox that you can use to persuade this person. When they get into the sacred value, you're really pushing them closer to the edge of violence.